let's give it a shot here. Can you all hear? If you will let me know if you can hear. It's going to take a couple of seconds for the stream to pick that up. Let me look over here. You can hear, yay! Sandy, Lynn, and Jessica, hallelujah. Okay, so Jacob, they can hear. We're in business. Okay, so we'll kind of pick back up. Sometimes technology is wonky, and we don't know why. Everything's set, and it's supposed to work. So I'll just go back here. Again, what I was talking about you couldn't hear was that, yeah, on the radar, we have the snow coming in. You have the rain southeast of St. Louis. It's showing up on the radar here. This is not reaching the ground. It is not raining in Mount Vernon right now, okay? The base of the clouds to the ground, it's pretty dry air. So you've got to get that rain, and in this case, down 44, snow, to kind of filter through that, and then it evaporates or sublimates, in the case of snowflakes, just kind of goes to the air and evaporates, and that's a cooling process. So it actually is helping to cool off the air on the way down because temperatures have been around 40. Once it starts snowing, they drop more like 36, then down closer to 33 once we get going. What we have seen so far is that this area down 44, Sullivan's reported some snowflakes. We'll take a look in a few minutes at the weather camera that's down in Cuba, Missouri. Haven't seen much going down 67 just yet, but this is an area we are concerned about. And then even all the roads that go out of Farmington, going west, out of Park Hills, going back towards Potosi, you've got a lot of hilly terrain there and a lot of weavy, windy roads. They're just two-lane roads, and they get slick pretty quick. Now, where you're seeing the darker blues, this is where there is some heavier snow showing up on the radar screen. Not necessarily all of it reaching the ground, but the leading edge of that's about into Pacific, about into Washington. The leading edge isn't reaching the ground. So you have to wait about 15, 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes for that band of snow to sit over top of you, kind of moisten the layer, and then it starts reaching the ground. So this is part of a good-sized system that we're dealing with here that is sliding in from the southwest. Snowing in Kansas City, you've got the snow down to Springfield. Fayetteville, Arkansas, if you were watching when you couldn't hear, that was the video that we were looking at from Fayetteville, Arkansas. The back edge of this now is coming through Oklahoma City and pressing on to the east. So this whole area will be moving through during the overnight hours. And the back edge, which is from Wichita to Oklahoma City right now, will be over St. Louis about 6 to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So just keep that in mind. Now, temperature-wise, see, St. Louis is still coming in with 41 degrees. But Springfield's had the snow for a while. It's down to 31 there. Wichita's at 31, 35 degrees in Columbia at this point. So let's look at some of our temperatures around the area. You know, the cutoff is about 40 degrees. If the temperature's over 40 degrees, somewhere on that track for a snowflake on the way to the ground, it's going to melt. What we're finding, though, is with the exception of right at the ground, there's not warm air aloft. We're all below freezing through the layer. And so these temperatures that are in the upper 30s, they still support snow falling. You see what's happened down in Raleigh, it's 33. Lake of the Ozarks has snow, 34 degrees. That's what we will see happen in St. Louis as we head through the evening hours. This is down in Cuba, Missouri right now. This is a camera pointed out towards, at the airport there, pointed out towards the tarmac. And if you look up closely here at the light, you can actually see the snow falling. We get a picture every other second out of this camera. And what you're also noticing is you don't see it on the pavement. I just looked a couple of minutes ago, just looked at the ground temperatures over at the Science Center. Grass temperatures, 2-inch soil temperatures under grass, under sod, is still 52 degrees at the Science Center. The bare earth is about 44 degrees. So your grass, your ground temperatures are warm. And because we had some sunshine earlier today, that actually helped, you know, warm the concrete, warm the roads a little bit. But on those shady roads that don't get the sunshine, they would tend to be a little bit colder. So here it is coming in. It's going to fill in as we go through the evening hours. By the time we get to midnight, 1 o'clock, we will have had an hour or two of light snow falling in St. Louis. And there may be some big fat flakes mixed in there too. We're thinking, though, as we head towards daybreak, the better chances for seeing heavier snow would shift farther north and east of St. Louis. So watch what happens with the temperatures here. We bring this in, and as we do, the temperatures start to go down closer to freezing. Now, with the ground being as warm as it is, as long as it's not snowing hard, you're still able to melt that. The ground is so warm, you're still able to melt it. But with temperatures right around freezing, if it's snowing hard, even though the ground is warm, some of that energy being used to melt the snow will also help cool the ground, and you end up with slick spots that develop, especially on the elevated surfaces, your deck, bridges, overpasses, and that's what we're concerned about. That's why we have the weather alert day going for tomorrow, because we are anticipating the potential of slick spots around, at least in some areas. And again, if it doesn't snow very hard after 4 or 5 o'clock, by 6 o'clock, it may just be wet roads around the St. Louis area. And then we're going to shove it all off to the east here once we get past the morning rush hour. So this is not a huge snowstorm. This is not going to be like Saturday night when we had, 6 inches of snow in 3-4 hours in St. Clair County. That's not happening this go round. Here are the probabilities for the accumulating snow specifically for St. Louis. High probability that we get measurable snow. That's 1/10 of an inch. So that would be a dusting, right? So that high probability is there. So we're pretty confident we're going to get snow. Now, to get an inch or more, the probabilities, the latest that we have from the ensemble models, this is using more than 100 models into the calculations for this, and that's more than our brains can comprehend and actually work with. But it's 55%. So we're pretty confident most of the metro area is probably going to get 1/2 inch to about 1.5 inches. To get over 2 inches, probability drops to just 15%. Probability for 4 or 6 inches, that's 0. So the total snowfall, most likely south and east of St. Louis, where it's a little bit warmer, and you may end up with a little more of a rain-snow mix, maybe nothing to up to 1 inch. Then we get back into the metro area. We're saying up to 2 inches. There'll be spots that may not see much at all in this band. Just depends on how the snow bands actually set up within the embedded snow bands within the wider area of snow. So we'll say up to 2 inches. Most of us around the metro, probably 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches. Again, if it was really cold and we were well below freezing and the ground was cold, that would be enough to really slicken things up and cause big problems. In this particular scenario, probably mostly wet roads. We're watching the elevated surfaces. Now, up to our north of Troy, heading up towards Bowling Green, Louisiana, north of Hardin, Illinois, up towards Jerseyville, we may be talking about 2-3 inches of snow or more in that area if we can get a band that is a little bit heavier there. So that's what we're looking at this point. So it is a weather alert day for Tuesday morning. Going through the overnight hours, snow's moving in from the west right now. We expect the heaviest around the metro St. Louis to be from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. And we expect wet to perhaps slushy roads. And we're especially concerned about the bridges and the overpasses. That's our main concern as we head towards tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow afternoon, a lot of this is going to melt away. We'll be above freezing. And then we wander on into Wednesday here, and we're talking about a mostly cloudy sky, a pretty good gusty breeze across the area, and we're talking about maybe a few flurries north of St. Louis, but we're only in the 30s here on Wednesday. There's another front that comes in later on Thursday, which means Friday, we're being optimistic going with 32 for the high on Friday. It may not get out of the upper 20s in some spots. The good news that we have is that temperatures do moderate some over the weekend, and it looks like as we head towards Wednesday and Thanksgiving Day of next week, we will be talking about the potential, anyway, of looking at temperatures around that 50-degree mark. So that's kind of where we are at this point, and I'll just give you that look again down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. They're just dealing with wet roads, but you can see the snow is coming down pretty well there, and that's kind of what we're seeing around much of the area. And I just want to leave you with the radar pictures before we go. And Jacob, do we have any questions on there? Anybody asking any questions?
You answered them. Most people were just curious what the accumulation was going to be in their particular area.
Yeah.
So we see Belleville, Shiloh.
Yeah, Belleville and Shiloh, this is not anything like what we saw, in the wee hours Saturday morning. That just perplexes a lot of meteorologists, to be perfectly honest with you. So we don't anticipate that happening here. The ingredients don't look like they're coming together for that, but we will have some pockets where there's some heavier snow and potentially some slick spots. So I think we're coming up on 9 o'clock now. It's probably in the west of 270, you're probably looking at it about 10 o'clock starting up. and then 255 and east, probably closer to 11 o'clock, which the timing on that's really good because, you know, not a lot of us are out in the overnight hours. And then hopefully the heaviest is leaving us by early tomorrow morning so that the road crews can get out. And, you know, they did a lot of pre-treating to get ready for this. So I think we're in an overall good shape tomorrow as long as we don't get a burst of snow right around or during, just before or during the morning rush hour tomorrow. So we'll leave it with that for now. And of course, we'll have an update for you tonight on 5 on Your Side at 10. Right at this moment, though, we're just chilly in St. Louis with a cloudy sky. You guys have a good evening.